Well, all I did was change studios. Good to be back with you guys. 129 days straight here of Clippers Talk, where today we got two episodes, two features for you. One involving Brad Rowland from Locked On Atlanta Hawks that we just finished about 10 minutes ago, talking about Bogey, Bogdan Bogdanovich, and introducing him to you guys, where he played his entire post-game introductory press conference from the other night as he spoke with the media after the Clippers win over the Utah Jazz. And now we're getting set to talk about Ben Simmons with a special guest here as well. I can't believe I'm already back. I guess because there's some audio that's being dispensed right now. But Adam Armbrecht, in just a little bit, maybe about 40 minutes from now, will be speaking with us from Locked On Brooklyn Nets regarding Ben Simmons. But the Clippers are practicing today. Ben Simmons is currently speaking with the media after Coach Lou just did. That audio is already out, so I figured why not get to it right now? We can all listen to it at the same time. I'm interested to hear what Coach Lou says about how he's going to use Ben Simmons, how he looked in practice, how Bogey looked in practice. So let's review the audio. I believe I found this on Hoop Chef this time. We had Hoop Jab a little bit earlier. So I'll open this up, I'll share the screen, and we will pick apart this audio that just came out. This was Coach Lou within the last, I think, 45 minutes at practice.
First of all, I'd like to get a couple just days to you guys chill out after the schedule you guys had.
It was good. Just take some time, step away from the game, get our bodies right, and then come back today and have a good day. And I thought we did it. We did that today.
So, a couple of days off, did them good. Good to see that. Yeah, the Lakers getting Alex Len. That's a good pickup for them. I didn't like that either. We're focused on the Clippers, though.
What was it like incorporating Ben into some of what you guys were doing today?
It was good. I mean, it's going to take some time, because you have a point guard that can play the center and the point, and so depending on what unit he's on. So just going to take some time to just kind of.
A point guard that can play the center and the point, depending on what units he is on.
Let him learn the plays, understand how we want to play. But with that second unit, I thought him and Bogey had a good thing going out there on the floor. So just keep building off of that and keep getting those guys more comfortable with each other.
He and Bogey had a good thing going out there on the floor with that second unit. That's interesting. Like hearing that.
Everybody to be available tomorrow.
I don't know.
Who are you sure about for tomorrow?
I don't know.
Who are you sure about for tomorrow to be available tomorrow?
I don't know. I'm more comfortable with each other.
You expect everybody to be available tomorrow?
I don't know.
Who are you sure about for tomorrow?
I don't know.
Coach Lou not sure who's available tomorrow between those two guys. Did I misinterpret that? Did you guys hear that question from La Murray? Sounds like status TBD with maybe Bogey and Ben.
How is Ben health-wise?
He's good. He's good to go. And so we'll know more today. Hopefully he'll be able to play tomorrow.
Just how Ben and
go.
How is Ben health-wise?
He's good. He's good to go. And so we'll know more today. Hopefully he'll be able to play tomorrow.
Hopefully Ben will be available to play tomorrow.
Ben and Bogey doing some dribble handoff stuff towards the end of practice. What do you kind of envision from that two-man game with those two?
Just working together. I think Bogey's a good mover. He does a good job coming on screens and DHOs and just getting that chemistry together, especially if a five-man is going to be guarding Ben. Just using different ways to get open, different strategies to open up space. And so we're just working on that today, just trying to get better.
Previous season.
Are you guys able to hear this audio? Are you hearing it okay? Just let me know. It's a little bit low for me, but I want to make sure you guys are hearing it correctly. From Coach Lou. Thumbs up. thumbs up. Are we good? Are you guys hearing Coach Lou all right? Yay? Nay? Casuals can't hear it? You guys can hear it. All right. We're good. We're good. Sorry. This is Coach Lou just about, I think, within the last half hour, 45 minutes, talking about Ben Simmons practicing, Bogey, who could be available tomorrow.
And just getting that chemistry together, especially for 5 man, is going to be guarding Ben. Just using different ways to get open, different strategies to open up space. And so we're just working on that today, just trying to get better.
Previous seasons, when you've used a small ball center, it's usually been a spacer like Nico or like Marcus. But obviously, Zoo has operated out of the short roll a lot this season and has progressed in that. Do you see Ben as a potential second unit version of that, where he's able to operate in the short roll, whether it's DJ or whoever else is out there, hit them, cutting things of that nature? Like, are you thinking of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I envision it, but just got to.
He envisions Ben operating that short role in the same way Zoo does with the starters, Ben in the second unit.
Keep practicing, keep getting better, just kind of see, what each guy brings. It's going to be something a little different for us, so it's going to take some time.
Hi, what was kind of
you being a former player and knowing Ben's skill set, how is it for you? Because you did say point guard first, and I'm glad that you did start off with that because you actually identify his talent level. But, how is it for you, kind of just identifying that and placing him in the spot that he's most comfortable with, too, as well, and then also putting him in a dunker spot, too, sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, just how, unique his game is and how we can incorporate him to our offense and defense. But the biggest thing, he can push the pace, when he rebounds the basketball. Unbelievable passer. You can put him at the elbows. You can use him in transition. And then when he's playing with, the first unit with Zoo's out, if he's playing the 5, I wouldn't say more so the dunker. I would say more so the corner, and then catching uphill DHOs and playing off of that. So just something we got to continue to keep getting better, but keep working on.
Ben had no shortage of suitors. What was kind of the communication?
No shortage of what?
Of suitors in the biomarker and everything. What was the communication like with him, and how were you guys able to convince him that this was the right spot for him at this stage of his career?
Just told him our plan, the blueprint of how we want to use him, and we thought he can bring to the team. And I've known Ben for a long time since he first came in the league. When he was under Rich Paul, and just building that relationship. So I've known him, and so it almost happened when I almost went to Philly. It almost happened, but now it's here. So just got to make the most of it.
How difficult is it to incorporate even more guys after the trade deadline into the lineups and things that you need to do?
It's good for us to start over, I think, offensively, just to get better and do the things we need to do that's necessary, to win games, and just be better at executing what we're trying to do. So it gives us a chance to start over and implement those guys into it. And so it's going to take a little time as far as rotations and how we play guys together and things like that. But from a basketball standpoint, I'm kind of excited about it.
He's been talking about starting over offensively for some time, kind of hitting the reset there a little bit, whatever that means exactly. But I guess it is an advantage to some degree if they're starting over, regardless if you've already been here or if you're a new player coming in. You're kind of all starting from scratch in a way, maybe. But, I mean, I'm assuming there's still plenty of concepts and philosophies that Coach Lou has been using for years that they're not exactly going away from or anything like that.
So you view this kind of like a fresh start then, essentially?
Yes.
What are you looking forward to, Ben, on the defensive end of the floor? Like, how do you envision using him compared to how he's been using the best?
Yeah, I mean, he's always guarded the best players, and so, being able to use him to switch, 1 through 5, put him on the best player. If you got to stay, attached, and we don't want to switch, he's physical enough to get through screens and keep his matchup. And so he wants to do that. That's what he wants to do. He wants to guard the best players every single night. And, there's another guy we can, use for our defensive assignments. And so he's up for the challenge that he wants to guard.
Ben wants to guard and wants to guard the toughest assignments each and every night. I didn't realize the connection with Rich Paul being the agent for him and Coach Lou here. So there's familiarity. They've known each other for some time. That's a big advantage for the Clippers.
I've had a lot of success with buyout guys in recent years where they've come in and not just, fit in, but have played pretty large roles. How have you been able to navigate that, especially with some of the guys that you have brought in being pretty unique players?
It's first of all, it just says a lot about the organization. They choose to come here when they have other organizations they can go to. So that's one. But two, just giving someone a fresh start. It's always good to get a fresh start and start over and not worry about where you've been in the past and what you've done in the past, but get to a new place where you're welcomed and guys are pulling for you, and you get a chance to have a new start. And so that's the most important thing.
After the game the other day, Bogdan was telling us how he's not just a scorer; he's more of a playmaker as well. He wants to show off that. What do you? Does that change the fact that he's able to play make and not just I think he's viewed as a scorer, but the fact that he can play make and create for others, how much does that help that second unit with what you guys kind of want to do?
Oh, it helps a lot. I think with him being that second unit, guys that can pass the ball and make plays and willing to do that, I think says a lot. And like I said, Bogey's not just a 3-point shooter. Like he can run pick and roll, and we saw that this summer, playing against Serbia. That he's a tough cover, tough matchup, and so just got to get him comfortable with what we're doing, and he's going to be great for us.
So there was Coach Lou at practice just about 45 minutes ago, talking about the Clippers' newest acquisitions there. I think there were some interesting comments talking about using Ben Simmons with the second unit, and then if Zoo's out of the first unit, they could use him. So therefore, it doesn't sound like he's going to try to use them both, which is good. Both them playing out there on the floor. Contrary to what some people think, Ben should be in the starting unit and all these things, or be the starting power forward or anything like that. You can't have two guys in the front court that can't shoot, especially to this degree. I mean, they're non-shooters completely. If it's a Zubats, I'd trust him more shooting-wise right now than Ben Simmons. This is, I think, a really unique player for Coach Lou to use to play with. I'm really interested to see how this is going to work. He said he and Bogey at practice in the second unit both look good today. Ben Simmons is healthy. I know we're looking for Ben Simmons audio coming up here in a little bit because he spoke with the media too. So hopefully we'll have that on. And if you missed it, we did an introductory episode just a little bit ago. Speaking with, that was Brad Rowland from Locked On Atlanta Hawks talking about Bogdan Bogdanovic, and giving you guys a little bit of his background. We'll be doing the same here in this episode with Ben Simmons, and I'm hoping we're going to have that pregame audio or that post-practice audio from Ben Simmons with his introductory, I guess, presser with the media. You can call it that because I know there's quotes coming out. He spoke with them. I retweeted Joey Lynn. He's obviously there asking questions. So hopefully that's going to be uploaded here in just a little bit to Hoop Chef or Hoop Jab. Appreciate them always posting a lot of great audio. It is extremely helpful to go through this stuff. But I think this Ben Simmons signing, I mean, both guys really raise your ceiling in some ways if they're right, if they're used correctly. I think both can really help this Clippers team. Ben Simmons gives them a very interesting look with him playing small ball 5. And it sounds like that is a lot of how Coach Lou's going to use him. He just said there, Joey Lynn asked the question about using him in the short role, and he basically signed off on that and said, yeah, that's kind of how we envision it. Him being Zubats with the second unit in the short role. And what a great passer to have in that position. Ben Simmons at the 5 passing there. How can he defend on the other end? I got questions there. He does think he can guard 1 through 5. Ben Simmons said that he wants to guard the other team's best players. If he buys in, if he commits to it, I just don't know. I was listening to Robert Flom on 213 Hoops, Lob the Jam, the podcast the other day, talk about this, how comfortable he is with guarding the other team's 5. So that's something to look at with Ben Simmons. less worried about him on the offensive end than I am maybe on the defensive end against certain matchups. Because as much as he could juice up your offense, is he going to hurt you defensively against certain fives? Now, maybe it's matchup dependent, and therefore you still have Drew Eubanks, who did practice today, had that ankle injury, but it sounds like he's okay. Hopefully that's the case. If it's a really physical five, you go with Drew Eubanks instead of Ben Simmons. I don't know. I'm really intrigued by what Ben Simmons can bring to this Clippers team, where he's at physically, just getting a change of scenery. That makes all the difference in the world for certain guys. So this is not something that should be, brushed aside. Oh, the Clippers are taking a flyer on Ben Simmons. No, I think they really have some belief in what he can bring this team. I think he's going to get a really big opportunity. Coach Lou did say it could take some time, him learning plays. They're really starting from the ground up again offensively in some ways, it sounds like. So maybe he won't be that far behind he and Bogey because everybody is starting from the same spot. But I really want to see what happens here with Ben Simmons and how he fits in and how much he's playing, because Coach Lou, this is a guy who loves to lean into small ball. So what a guy to have. This just gives you so much more versatility if they can get it right, if they can figure it out. I think it comes down to Coach Lou. I think it's as simple as, is he going to find the right spots and how to use Ben Simmons? And there's nobody I would trust more for that, honestly. If there's a way to unlock a better version of Ben Simmons, Coach Lou is going to find the key. He will, guys. So that's what has me a little bit excited about this, because there's a lot of different ways to use him. And now the Clippers have they went from not having many small ball options to seemingly having a ton of them. That's what I'm interested in. That's how I think most of Clipper Nation is looking at this. Wait a second. We have way more dimensions and different ways to play than we did by adding Ben Simmons. Also by adding Bogey, because he can score at all three levels. He can play on ball, off ball. Both these guys just give you so many different looks to this team. We'll see how it plays out. They were only able to get Bogey because he's had an injury-plagued season where his shooting hasn't been there from the outside. They were only able to get Ben because maybe there have been locker room issues, personality issues, motivation or lack thereof issues. I'm going to ask, as we have coming up here, I hope I'm saying his name right. I know I got his first name right, but Adam Armbrecht from Locked On Nets about what he has seen with Ben Simmons over the last few years as a member of the Brooklyn Nets. Like, is this a career that can be resuscitated, salvaged, just renewed? I think a change of scenery could do a lot for him. He chose the Clippers. And for people who are like, why would they go after Ben Simmons? Like, well, I don't know. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who are on pace to win like 70 games this season, were the other team vying for him. Not just the Clippers. It came down to those two teams, and he chose the Clippers. He's in a contract year. He's in a prove-it situation. This is it. Like, it's not last chance, but this is a really good opportunity for him to show what he can do on a winning team. He hasn't been on one for some time. The Nets, I tell you, Ben Simmons has been playing better basketball. I was talking about this over the last week, since we were thinking this could be an option for the Clippers in the buyout market. It's come to fruition. So I was following his game log and just seeing how he's been playing out there. 10-6 game recently, 5-11 assist game, 14-9 assist game, 10-7 assist game. I think what people overlook is because he has lost some athleticism, and he was, an all-time athlete at his peak. They think he's washed now or he doesn't have it, but a guy like that losing some is still a pretty good athlete. Is still good enough to get it done there. And then you look at the vision, the reads he can make, the passes, the way he can get you into your offense. I mean, where have the Clippers struggled? They've struggled just getting across half court at times. Like, it sounds rudimentary. That has been a big issue for them. And they lose KPJ, who was one of their main ball handlers, their biggest behind James Harden. You bring in Bogey, who can handle the ball some. You bring in Ben Simmons, who of course can. He's their second best ball handler behind James Harden, maybe Kawhi. I know the last couple of games notwithstanding, where Kawhi for the first time in 5 years has had back-to-back games with 5 turnovers. But you want to talk about filling a need and finding guys that actually can supply the Clippers with some of what they're missing. Bogey and Ben Simmons check a lot of boxes. So I am very intrigued about how this can go. And we're hoping to have some Ben Simmons. Ooh, and we do have it. All right, you guys want to hear from him? Minute of the hour, at least on this podcast. Here's Ben Simmons in his introductory press conference as a member now of your Los Angeles Clippers.
Ben, according to your social media, can we safely say that you're excited to be here?
Yeah, I'm very, very happy to be here. Yeah, very excited to get started and get in the court.
Why? Is it just because, were you uncertain about your future?
I mean, I think making the decision to come here, I felt wanted. And that's something you want to feel, when you go to work. And you want to compete at a high level. And obviously these guys have been competing at a high level. Coaching staff is great. Medical staff has been great. Front office, everyone all around has been great so far. So for me, it's a welcoming experience, and I just want to compete and help this team win.
You want to be at a place where you're wanted. He's been the butt of a lot of jokes ever since that Game 7 against Atlanta, where Doc Rivers didn't commit to him being his guy moving forward. There was a lot of uncertainty. It was a lot of negativity surrounding Ben Simmons, and some of it may be on his side, but people were making fun of the fact that he was dealing with mental health issues. It's been a rough ride for him. So to be at an organization like this, the way he talks about the Clippers, that's got to be a breath of fresh air.
Branching off of that over here, welcome. What does this fresh start mean for you personally and professionally?
I think it's a little different. This is a different experience in terms of being in Brooklyn, coming here. It's a veteran-based team. So it's a lot different, but it's time to get going straight away. There's I don't have too much time to get a rhythm, but, I'm ready to get started and get competing. And, I just want to play basketball at a high level. And I feel like that's going to happen here.
Ooh, I like hearing that. He's ready to go now. Wants to play basketball at a high level. Wants to hit the ground running as much as he can. Wants to compete. Okay. He's saying the right things.
Ben, health-wise, do you feel like you have any limitations at this point?
No. I feel great, ready to go.
No issues with his health. Feels great, ready to go. Okay.
Ben, first of all, welcome to LA.
Appreciate it.
You mentioned in the previous interview guys like Magic and Wade, somebody that was influential to you, but did you ever look at somebody like a Lamar Odom? And if so, what was it about him that really intrigued you?
Yeah, obviously a bigger guard with the left hand. Always admired his game. Wasn't somebody I watched all the time, but, as you said before, Magic, D-Wade, guys like that, I watched a lot. But yeah, I got a great respect for him.
Lamar Odom comparisons. I do see that. Obviously, Lamar is a much better shooter, but there is something to that with his size, ability to handle the rock.
Appreciate it.
Wanted to get your insight on, you obviously had a couple suitors out there. Just what was your insight into why this was the right fit for you? What was communication from them about why this would be a great fit for you?
Yeah, I think speaking of Ty, everyone was just very transparent. They know what I'm capable of and what they expect from me stepping onto the floor. And, I'm willing to give that and ready to go. So I think it's easier when, teams are transparent and understand who you are and what you need and how, the team can help and how I can help them. So for me, I feel comfortable. I know most of the guys on the team, and so I'm ready to get started.
Him talking about the transparency there coming from Coach Lou. Something Coach Lou always stresses is you got to tell guys the truth. They may not always like it at first, but in the end, they'll respect you for telling that truth and being transparent. And again, they've had a relationship because they share the same agent.
Obviously, multi-talented, dribble, defend,
Mhm.
all that stuff. Where do you see yourself helping this team right away?
Yeah, defensively and pushing the ball, pushing the pace. That's something Coach Ty Lue spoke to me about. Now I'm ready to embrace that.
First off, glad that you're here. First thing, 25.
Mhm.
I'm happy you got the number
Me
back.
too, yeah.
No more Ben 10. We
Yeah.
back at the 25.
Yeah. We don't like to.
No, all I'm saying is like every time, because I saw you from LSU down, you've
Yeah.
always had 25.
25,
so for
yeah.
me, I'm like, yeah, it's back where it needs to be. But
Yeah.
just also,
He's back to wearing 25 like he was in his early days with Philly.
the last time I talked to you, I thought I'll never see you back in LA. And now you're back
Right.
home. But just kind of speaking to Ty, the first thing he said was like, you're a PG first. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that he said that.
Yep.
For you and your skill set, just being Ben, like I think that's the biggest thing. When those conversations with Ty, was that being discussed? Like you being
Yeah,
a
that
point
was
guard more
so that's one of the things. I spoke to a few different teams. That was the first things they said to me. We see you as a point guard, and for me, that's my position. Now I see the floor. I want to get my guys going, get them easy buckets, control the pace, and then on the defensive end, I want to be a dog. I want to be able to get stops and put that pressure on the ball.
Yeah, getting in this practice facility and seeing the locker room and just kind of seeing this building from a different perspective, what have been your first impressions?
Yeah, no, it's insane. From all the detail in this building, it's insane. I haven't seen anything like it. So, we have everything we need here to be successful. So, just applying it and using everything we got from medical to the food, to the facilities, has just been incredible.
Ben, Justin Russo, nice to meet you. Welcome to LA. First off, do you anticipate playing tomorrow, or would that be Thursday? And also, can you speak about your relationship with Patty Mills that you got and everything?
Yeah, so hopefully we get a decision tomorrow. We'll be talking to medical staff either tomorrow or Thursday, I believe, against Utah. And then Patty, I've known Patty since I was young. So, having a familiar face like that around helps. But the guys have been great, everyone's been very welcoming. And I'm just excited to get on the floor and play and compete.
So a couple of Aussies together here with him and Patty Mills, and they were together in Brooklyn a little bit. And whether he's playing tomorrow, sounds like he'll find out later from the medical staff. So we probably won't have a decision on that tonight, although I guess we'll see on the injury report.
Hey Ben, Adam Armbrecht, good to see you again. 3 years ago, you got traded for James.
Mhm.
That was obviously a different point in your life. You did a lot to get back when you've had a lot of comebacks since then. What's it like to now be with this team, but also with James specifically?
Yeah, that's great. I'm a competitor. I just want to compete. Regardless of, I don't know, all the bullshit that is said online that doesn't come from me. I want to compete, and I'm here to do that. And to play alongside, some of these great players is going to be great. I think everyone's just going to push each other to be better and expect greatness. So that's my expectation, coming to the Clippers.
He's saying all the right things so far. Everything he's saying, I love. Law bringing up how he was traded initially for James Harden and that connection there, and now you're playing next to him. So I don't know. I'm getting irrationally excited here.
It was great. We was another team who was trying to whoop their ass, so that's the only way to get better.
You mentioned,
I hear that one more
It was
time.
great. I think everyone's just going to push each other to be better and expect greatness. So that's my expectation, coming to the Clippers.
What was it like wrestling him today?
It was great. I mean, we was another team who was trying to whoop their ass, so that's the only way to get better.
Talking about practicing, I think against James Harden or the first unit, because he was with the second unit with Bogey today. Apparently, they were really competing out there.
Are you not clear to play back-to-backs right now?
Not yet, no.
Okay. And then I want to ask you about, obviously you played against a guy like
Not
Kawhi.
playing back-to-backs right now.
You mentioned, are you not clear to play back-to-backs right now?
Not yet, no.
Okay. And then I want to ask you about, obviously you played against a guy like Kawhi.
Mhm.
Just what are your thoughts just about teaming up with him, a guy of that caliber?
Yeah, I think defensively, obviously, it's a lot different when you're on the court with a lot of vets that have the experiences of being in the playoffs, being in the finals, things like that. So I think it will be unique, having a lot of guys like that in the court. I mean, obviously, isolation-wise, he's different. He's special. So I think it's not going to take too long for us to get a feel for each other on the floor, and for me to know where he's get to his spots and know where I need to put him at. But I'm excited. It was day one. We had one practice today, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes.
Him and Kawhi.
We talked to Jordy back in the preseason, talking about how social media can be a very tough place, especially in this kind of era.
Yeah.
How have you managed that? I mean, obviously your name's out there a lot. I'm sure you don't
Yeah.
manage all of it. How have you managed dealing with that and continuing to?
I really don't look at it. So that's probably the biggest thing for me, just not looking at it. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to look at.
What are some of the things that you do to maintain and protect your mental health? You talk about not looking at social media, but what are some other things that kind of help you?
I think that's the main thing. I think once you're comfortable with knowing who you are as a person, it's irrelevant, all of that, the extra noise. I try to stay away from it and try to just do my job, come in and work hard and compete.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
There was Ben Simmons at his introductory press conference. Thanks again to Hoop Chef for having the audio for us there. He seems like somebody who's extremely aware of what the perception of him has been, which is that he doesn't want to play hard, or people saying he has no heart, he doesn't care about the game. And he's constantly stressing there, compete, just wants to play. Wants to be at a place that he's wanted at. That's the change of scenery I was talking about earlier. The Clippers are going to give him the best opportunity for him to be himself, to get the most out of him. And if he wants or needs a chance to get that image makeover, as much as he's talking about how he doesn't go on social media, he doesn't care about it. He talked about the bullshit that has been said online about him. As much as he's acting like he doesn't care about that, he has a great opportunity to rewrite the narrative about himself here with the Clippers. So, this isn't the Lakers where they almost embrace the drama and the show and the spotlight of just being a star in LA. This is more of a grittier situation here with the Clippers, where it's about the work, it's about basketball. That's the central focus. I think this is a good place for him. We'll see how it goes. But I like what I'm hearing. I think, again, he said all the right things there, guys. Ben Simmons, he's talking the talk. It's going to come down to how he's used out there and his health, obviously, and the level he can play at now. Because I think he's going to – I don't really have any major concerns about how hard is he going to play. I don't. I know that's been part of the knock on him, and that's what he's been tagged with as a player, of being a guy who's not playing hard enough, doesn't care, doesn't love the game. I, for a myriad of reasons, believe that's going to be different with the Clippers. From their culture, their locker room, their coaching staff, Jeff Van Gundy. This team prides itself on playing hard all the time. I think you dip him into this culture, to this environment, it really gives him the best chance to succeed here right now with this Clippers team. And I think it's a good match because Coach Lou likes to play small ball. They don't have a great backup option. I like what we've seen from Drew Eubanks so far, but they didn't get Robert Williams or something like that, or somebody like that. So they'll play a lot of small ball, and they needed another ball handler, a guy who's dedicated to bringing the ball up the floor instead of just it being by committee with Chris Dunn and Bogey doing it with KPJ now in Milwaukee. You have somebody who's pretty sure-handed with the basketball, and Ben Simmons, a really great passer. So can you have continuity between lineups now with him and James Harden? He's got to get it to guys and their comfort spots. And he talked about working with Kawhi, and all this is going to be a process. It's going to take some time. We don't even know if he's playing tomorrow or if it's going to be on Thursday in Utah. But I'm guessing he's playing one of the games. He's still not playing back-to-backs. I'm guessing that's because of the back issue. It's been an ongoing one, but he says he's healthy right now. He's good to go. You get the sense from that interview that he is chomping at the bit to get out there and prove something. And he has a great chance to with the Clippers. Just, if you need to rebuild your reputation as a player, this is a great place to be. If you need to, have a chance to thrive in an environment like this where the focus is just about basketball, this is a great place to be for Ben Simmons. I'm excited about this because it is a need for this ball club to have somebody like him that can do this, as we're waiting on Adam Armbrecht, who is your Locked On Brooklyn Nets host, set to join us in just a few minutes so we can get some more intel and insight and backstory on Ben Simmons and just what the experience was like covering him with the Brooklyn Nets. As we're doing some player introduction episodes today. If you missed it a little bit earlier, we had a feature on Bogdan Bogdanovic, Bogey. He even played some probably pretty risque World of Warcraft sound, I would say. That episode definitely has a parental advisory, explicit lyrics to it after sticker on it after the sound we played off of YouTube, but I couldn't help myself with Bogey being a World of Warcraft fan, or at least he used to be. This Clippers team has had needs. I think they went out and addressed them at the trade deadline. You bring in Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, talking about helping the locker room and being a supportive type of guy with Ben Simmons, somebody that can help him, just having a little bit of familiarity, and also obviously both Australian, like all that stuff helps. I'm sure when the Clippers made that move to get Drew Eubanks and to get Patty Mills, that was part of the reason. They wanted to strengthen the locker room culture, and then also they probably had a pretty good idea Ben Simmons was going to be bought out, and that would help their case and their sales pitch to bring him in. Again, it was down between the Clippers and Cleveland Cavaliers. Where was he going to go? Cleveland's on pace to win. Maybe it's 67 games now, not 70. And they wanted to bring him in. And I would say they had less of a need because they have bigs, they have size, they have playmakers. And I'm sure that was a lot of the reason that he wanted to be a Clipper. And he talked about playing defense, pushing the pace and transition. This is somebody that really can change the dynamic of how the Clippers play, with tempo, with speed, getting into their offense faster, more hit-ahead passes. Some of those passes we've been talking about that were a point of emphasis all season long. And the Clippers, they've been doing it. They've been better in transition. They're second best in the league with points off of turnovers. They have absolutely adhered to a lot of that talk during training camp and the principles and Everything that was being preached by Coach Lou and Jeff Van Gundy, this is how we have to play. Well, about 20% of their points are coming off of opponents' turnovers because their offense has not been in a great place overall this season with not having Kawhi. They had to get easier buckets other ways. Ben Simmons helps in that area. He does. So he strengthens some of their strengths and also gives them different dimensions to their offense, especially with the second unit. Like, you guys have seen at times with or without KPJ, them really struggle to figure it out to get their offense organized whenever James Harden is off the floor. It's been bad. Like, they have a 113 offensive rating when James Harden is on the floor, which would be like 14th or 13th, a little bit better than middle of the pack offensive rating wise in the league. But with him off the floor, they're like 107. That would be one of the worst offensive ratings in the league. And they haven't had stability at the backup point position. I was going to say guard, but Ben Simmons, point forward, point center, however you want to look at him. They haven't had that guy. KPJ did some things well, had some good games, but overall just not steady enough out there. Still a young player. See what happens in Milwaukee for him. But now they got Ben Simmons. Now they have a legit second floor general out there that they can go to, that they can rely upon. Someone who just came in here and could just rewind, but is asking the question. We don't know if he's playing tomorrow yet. Check the injury report later tonight. That could tell the story. But my guess is he's playing either tomorrow or Thursday in Utah before the trade deadline. He's playing one of these next two games. I think they want to get this going. There's about 30 games left. It is extremely important for the Clippers to start to build up some continuity and familiarity and chemistry with these new guys. Now, a game against Memphis, that's going to be difficult as you're incorporating and integrating new players. While Kawhi has only played 14 games, and we don't know which game Kawhi is playing either. So does Ben Simmons play one of the games, Kawhi plays the other game, or do they play together? Because they're both not playing back-to-backs right now. In just a little bit here, we'll have Adam Armbrecht on from Locked On Nets. Got some questions for him as we just went through the introductory press conference with Ben Simmons. Had an episode for you earlier, a little bit of an introduction episode for Bogdan Bogdanovic. So your two newest Clippers, just wanted to feature them here as we bring in, speak of the devil, Adam. And if I'm getting your last name wrong, I asked somebody else and they said it was Armbrecht. Is that correct?
I hope it's not somebody who's on the network with me, because that would be just terribly inaccurate. It's German, so you got to put that KT at the end, Armbrecht, but it's okay though.
Armbrecht. I'm not going to be breaking my arm, pat myself on the back after getting that wrong. Adam, thanks for doing this here on Clippers Talk. I appreciate you.
Anytime, man. Happy to lend some insights to Ben Simmons and expectations that Clippers fans should have.
So this is going to be interesting because we just listened to his introductory press conference at practice today, and he spoke about wanting to get out there, compete, let's get this thing going. He talked about some of the BS that has been said about him on social media, pushed back against that stuff. Do you think there have been some misconceptions about him, or has a lot of the talk been spot on? Is he misunderstood at all? Is there some nuance here that people don't realize when it comes to Ben Simmons and how much passion he has for the game?
I think the mislabeling is to suggest that somehow Ben Simmons didn't want to be playing basketball over these last couple of seasons, right? His time with Philadelphia very much ends under the unfortunate circumstances. Doc Rivers calling him out after the playoff, right underneath the basket. And then you have whether or not he checked out from wanting to play with that team. So you can criticize him for that. But then it's the injuries and the reality of it, right? Sean Marks waives the physical when it comes over to that trade with James Harden when they swap effectively to, at the time, maybe theoretical star in Ben Simmons. And then obviously James Harden, who remains a very talented player, now find themselves sharing the court once again in LA. I think that that's what fans, at least from what we saw, especially Philadelphia 76ers fans, who were happy to jettison this player. What a problem, what a headache. And then even the Brooklyn Nets fans, who I think kept mislabeling that this guy doesn't want to play. He had back surgeries. Like, yeah, he had multiple surgeries for severe injuries that definitely hampered what he was physically for the majority of his time with Brooklyn. I think this last season, prior to the buyout, you saw a healthier version of him, even though he had some issues. It looked as close as we've seen to a fully healthy Ben Simmons. So I think that fans are maybe getting swept up in the idea that he doesn't want to play basketball as opposed to physically being unable to in recent seasons.
Adam Armbrecht from Locked On Nets is joining us here on Clippers Talk, as Ben Simmons was just introduced to the media as a member of the Los Angeles Clippers now. So I thought I would bring in an insider. What have been the situations of the locker room with Brooklyn over the years? Have there been real incidents? Has there been anything tangible with him and teammates where they haven't gotten along? Are there certain guys that like him and certain guys don't? How does it work?
No, by all regards, he's been a well-liked guy in the locker room. We referenced, I think, last season, and this is such an innocuous, throwaway kind of comment. I can't remember which player it was for the Nets said, "Oh, if you were having someone, throwing a party, who would you want to be hosting it?" Ben Simmons. Now, that could just be because he's making $40 million and he's got some money to throw around, but he seemed to be a genuinely well-liked guy in the locker room. Now, and probably because players at the NBA level can relate to not always being healthy, not always being able to be out there. And then if you're veterans that have come and gone with the Brooklyn Nets, once you started, trading away Kyrie Irving, trading away Harden, trading away Kevin Durant, I think veteran players kind of understand this is a fluid set of circumstances, and you're not necessarily going to love being a part of a bad team, a tanking team, right? And all the other agendas that come with it. But no, there haven't been any issues from anything that we heard in his time in Brooklyn in regards to how other players felt about him in the locker room or on the court for that matter.
So how much of this narrative, and maybe it's a false narrative regarding Ben Simmons and his love for the game, or whether or not he has it or not, has really been anything from his own words? Is it about other guys crafting the narrative? Is it the Doc Rivers press conference after the Game 7? Is it fans out there just seeing he's out all the time? Is that all this is?
Yeah, I think he talked about, he has some great interviews they did in podcast over the last 2 off seasons where he talked about he wasn't sure if he'd be able to physically play basketball again, right? And then that does impact your love and desire to play the game. I don't question whether or not he wants to play. There's two very different things here. We always spent our time, my co-host Doug Norrie and myself, just talking about the performance on the court. That's all that really matters, is how do you play on the court? And there are times when you saw some brilliance from him and you can see why he can be a valuable piece to a playoff team, to a contending team. And then there's still some of the same instances and some of the key stats that you look at and go, but will you be able to trust him, right? Late game sequences. Will you be able to trust him at the free throw line? Will you be able to trust him to attack downhill at the basket after you felt like you got past the point of believing he physically was capable of doing that again?
So then let's talk about him on the court a little bit. You kind of mentioned it, but seemingly he's more athletic and in a better place now than he had been, obviously, at the start of his tenure with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yes, 100%. He came in, it was just injury after timeout and everything else that went along with it. So I think that part of it from a Nets fan base perspective was just frustrating. And that really goes back to GM Sean Marks and saying, why were you, even in the moment of feeling like James Harden was not going to play for you, didn't want to be there, were you so eager to pull the trigger on a deal and then just basically take a dead asset, right? And take a player that was going to occupy salary cap and in an era of superstars prevent you from maybe being able to maintain that core, especially with Kevin Durant. I don't know where he's going to be with the Clippers. This would be the egg on my face and the egg on, our show's face, to if he comes out and looks like a starkly different player. He physically looks as healthy as we've seen him. And also, he is lane attacking adverse. There are moments in the open court when he'll go at the rim and he will attack. We saw as recent as a couple weeks ago, flipping up, shots from within the paint with left and right hands. Not always the prettiest, but they were going down. I just don't know if he has the conviction on the offensive end to be able to consistently impact the game in some critical moments. Facilitation, setting up, James Harden, the two of them sharing the floor at times with their court vision, I can see things being incredible for that offense. But there are liabilities here, and it's not just the offensive end. I think the defensive end is another area of, I wouldn't say concern, but he's not the same defensive player that he was 2-3 years ago either, at least at this point from what we saw.
So on the court, he does get stereotyped. Of course, it was one play at the end of Game 7, but that has followed him since coming over to Brooklyn. And you're saying some of that is still there. Do you think that's a mental thing? Do you think that is him still not having enough confidence in his body to go at the basket? Like, where does that lie?
Yeah, yes, I do think that there is that component when he was coming out of Philly, and I say this with all sincerity, for lack of a better term, right? The mental part of the game. He was dealing with things away from basketball that impacted him. He gave off-season and media day interviews with Nets media saying that he was confident and he was doing the things in his personal life to get himself over some of those humps, and that was no longer an issue for him. That being said, I can go back and look at game logs where he's taking, some of these recent weeks, he was taking 6, 7, 8, 10 plus shots per game. And there's also ones where he played 30 minutes and took 2 shots. There are games we played 21, 25 minutes because Jordy Fernandez and the Nets started to regulate minutes, not just for him, but for everybody, where he's taking under 5 shots per game. And it's simply not good enough. And you saw sequences even as recent as this season where attacking downhill, especially in transition, he would be between only him in the basket, a defender, and maybe a defender out of position, and would still be looking to distribute to perimeter shooters, guys in the corner. And whether or not those are good looks that he's getting for his teammates, because they can be, it doesn't change the fact that you're not putting that pressure on the defense, going at the rim, getting more fouls potentially on key players, because he has that athleticism and that burst to do it. And you want that to be an asset of his offensive game. I just don't think that he doesn't want to do it. Right? You can watch all the videos of him in the offseason, taking shots, watching him in, pregame warmups, shooting 3-pointers. That it's never, it's not happening. It's never going to happen. And if you're a Clippers fan, I would not start putting stock into the bucket of, he's been lying dormant with some of the things that he really wants to do, and he's ready to showcase it now that he's not encumbered by the Brooklyn Nets. For all intents and purposes, the Nets were great to him. They didn't force the issue with his injuries. They were supportive of him, tried to build him back up. And ultimately, when it came down to it, I think they even did right by him, only having to give back $1.1 pro-rated $1 million and then being able to go join a contender.
Adam Armbrecht from Locked On Nets is our guest here. Really good intel here. I appreciate it, Adam. Team Adam with you here on Clippers Talk right now. What was his relationship like with the media in Brooklyn? Was he ever confronted, or how often did it happen where somebody would maybe say something to the head coach or to Ben Simmons regarding his lack of aggressiveness and willingness to get downhill? Did he push back against it? Because in what I just heard in his introductory press conference with the Clippers, the operative word he kept using, or the key buzzword, was, I just want to go out there and compete. And it seemed like that is him trying to maybe push back against the narrative that has been labeled on him for some time.
So in the context of this season, that type of statement can be associated with the Nets, the tanking agenda, right? That was the goal this year. They've kind of messed that up. Did too much winning too early this year under Jordy Fernandez. Yeah, they've the Brooklyn Nets like to set plans and then like to do the exact opposite and just really frustrate the fan base. So if you're talking about this season, it is justified, right? Because he's been healthy. And the Nets have been navigating minutes for certain players. They've tried to be strategic and line up some more losses for themselves. It hasn't always worked out. So you can sit there and say that's fair from his end, from his camp, to say, I want to get out there and compete. The other side of it is all the other time, right, with the Brooklyn Nets and availability due to injuries. When you go back and look at his time in Brooklyn, you're talking about a player, and I want to make sure I get the numbers right here. He played 42 games, 15 games, and then it appeared in 33 games this season. So did not exactly get himself onto the court. And I'm not putting that at his feet for dealing with injuries, but I think that's the story. He's dealt with a lot of injuries at the end of his time in Philadelphia and then coming over to Brooklyn. This was effectively a fairly extended injury recovery timeline for him as a Brooklyn Net. So I don't think there's a need for him to have to explain away what went on in Brooklyn. Everyone knows what the Nets organization was trying to accomplish. And in his time in Brooklyn, it's kind of unfortunate. You have coaches that I think were a little bit neutered by the organization, and Steve Nash brought in specifically to appease superstars. So I never really had much teeth to anything that he had to say. I think Jacques Vaughn wanted to be that guy, but was unable to kind of set the standard and expectations. He met with Ben Simmons in the offseason before he came back, ultimately was let go. And then now with Jordi Fernandez. Fernandez came the closest to saying what we need from him. He had post-game press conferences where he said, yes, we like what he did defensively, but he's got to attack on the offensive end more. He needs to shoot. I need him taking 7, 10 shots a game. So he was trying to set expectations there. I would never really a lot of pushback from it. Didn't have a lot of negative, post-game discussions where Ben Simmons was throwing teammates or coaches under the bus in any way, shape, or form. But a lot of his responses did seem to be, aloof, for lack of a better term, right? He was just, I'm going out there. I want to go out. I want to compete. I want to get better. I want to do what the staff wants. So fairly blasé responses in that regard. I don't associate anything other than him wanting to, resurrect his career for all intents and purposes. He'll be a free agent after this. And if he expects to get one more big payday, he needs to figure it out over these final 30, whatever games on the Clippers schedule remaining to set himself up to have any chance to get a multi-year deal from a team.
So how much of the Ben Simmons situation that in your mind is a reflection on maybe some instability with Brooklyn and them going from all the way in to then all the way out? Can that be somewhat of an explanation for things that have gone on?
Only this season, I would say, because if he had been healthy last year fully, maybe there would have been discussions. I don't think teams are taking a look. We always said it's going to be really hard to find a trade partner for that contract with Ben Simmons, right? Brooklyn was not incentivized to buy him out at any point prior to this deadline, nor was Ben Simmons. Why would Ben Simmons want to not take him, right? It all came down to, why are we parting ways and what went wrong or right? Okay, well, yeah, I don't have to give back anything more than $1.1 million. Fine. I'm ready to be amicable and move on from this. So you could have put him on any other team, and you could actually make the case that on another team and another organization, depending on circumstances, he might have been cut loose sooner. The Nets didn't have an urgency to do that once the superstar era ended. And I don't think there was anything for him to accomplish in being brought in as a pseudo, replacement for James Harden as far as, still being able to compete for championships. I think that was a sinking ship that was starting to fall apart, and you're just taking swings to get any asset of value back in return.
Outside of my guy, Noah Eagle, I haven't been following the Brooklyn Nets close enough to know this answer, and I'm wondering if you can help me out here. I've heard rumors that he's been asked to play the small ball 5, but has refused to, almost like in the way that Anthony Davis doesn't like playing center. Obviously, very different players. And now AD is with the Mavericks, and I hope things work out and he gets healthy. But is Ben Simmons, has he not wanted to play certain roles? Because that's what everybody's anticipating with him as a Clipper, that he is going to be the point center, basically. Is that something he can do?
It's not something that he did with Brooklyn. I'll put it to that regard. I mentioned earlier about the defensive end is different than maybe it was. And again, we may find out that he's been holding something in reserve for this opportunity. He is still a plus defender, but he is not the same defender he was early in his career in Philadelphia. Maybe a little bit of a step slow. We saw multiple season over seasons with Brooklyn where, and this may have been frustration, trying to come back on the court. He's talked about this, thought he could get back out there, wasn't 100%, but wanted to go. Really careless, kind of lazy fouls at times, picking up like fouls in bunches at times. And that can be a combination of all these different things. And then from a rim protection standpoint, listen, I mean, the Nets had Nick Claxton, and that's not a pure 5 either, not a big physical presence, but he is very athletic and very versatile on that end of the floor. So when you have a plus player like that, it maybe makes it easier to not necessarily navigate into those waters and play in the paint. And again, physical side of it as well. But we did not see an indication that Ben Simmons wants to be down in the low block when, player X gets that drop down, lowering his forearm into his back, being a physical presence there. If he can reestablish that, then you have, point center. We all know that's the dream scenario for any team that has Ben Simmons. I just need to see it be proven on the court. By the way, I hope that I do. One of the things that was really hard to do over these past few seasons was talk about Ben Simmons negatively from a basketball standpoint and not have everyone make the leap. You guys must not like him. You must, not want him to be. No, we hope he's 100% healthy. I hope that I turn on the TV and watch him with James Harden and the Clippers. I hope that it's a rejuvenating end of season for him and a playoff run, and he gets back to playing great basketball, because that's great for the NBA. So we did not see that commitment consistently in his time in Brooklyn.
I haven't checked the numbers off Sport VU cameras or anything like this when it comes to inside the arc. And if he's got from 5 to 9 feet out, float game, or anything else he's going to outside of just a layup and a dunk. Has he showcased anything that's been a little bit different from that the last couple of years?
This season, there was a little more of the, just outside of the arc, inside the paint there, outside the restricted area, I should say, those little turn and flips. Now, the problem with these are they're not attractive looking shots. So, sometimes it's ugly, it's ugly form, but good result. And you'll take that because it does force something from defenses, right? I hate to say that sometimes, the layups going towards the basket have been a bit of an adventure, right? So it's not about, if only he had a mid-range shot. No, it's just about everything offensively is always like hold your breath. And then if it goes well, it goes well. I will say, as this little kind of, silver lining this season, we saw a couple of, I believe it was early in the year, first 5 games or so. And both Doug Norrie and myself said on our post-game podcast, that was the most athletic, the most springy, the most emphatic we saw him, where he just had a breakaway, took it, threw it down at the rim. For 2 years prior, we thought, I don't even know if this guy has it to be able to go up and really do it with authority. So there is that there, the strength coming back to his back, trusting his body going in towards the basket. I wouldn't say we saw a ton of it when it comes to physicality, congestion around the basket. I think he's still more likely to maybe want to kick it out, or more likely to kind of want to save his body away towards the baseline and flip it up at the basket, as opposed to really challenge players physically around the rim.
Now, I know Brooklyn's in a different situation, and there's a reason to buy out Ben Simmons, and they're playing capture the flag, and I'm all for it. I think it's smart process. But what if they were trying to win a game tonight? What would they be missing most by not having Ben Simmons on the Nets anymore?
Court vision, facilitation. One thing that was never lost was how he sees the floor, and this is such a low-level observation. The taller you are, the better that you can survey, right? It's this advantage by being a point center. You can just see over top of everybody. But he has tremendous court vision, tremendous anticipation. When he makes some of these passes, it's not just that he's finding open players. He leads players to the open spaces, right? He knows how to take a player like Day'Ron Sharpe, who's an elite offensive rebounder, and not a lot else. But if you're going to share the court with him, he's going to find you and put you in great spots. Noah Clowney for the Brooklyn Nets, one of the better young players we have that we're excited about. He's become a very heavy perimeter shooter. Small instances where it was a big benefit to have a player like Ben Simmons on the floor. And if you have other talented players like a James Harden, there's a value in being able to put the ball in someone else's hands, and then you get to navigate to open space. You get to put pressure on secondary defenders when it comes to the opposition. So Brooklyn Nets, who have had a lack of ball handling over these last couple of years and traded away some of that ball handling, like with Dennis Schroeder at the deadline this season, or well ahead of this the deadline, excuse me. That's massive. The way that he sees the floor was not diminished in any way, shape, or form, because it's not dependent on physicality, not dependent on shot, not dependent on defense. When that ball comes down off the defensive rim, he wants to get it in his hands, he wants to push the pace, and he wants to find open shooters early in shot clocks. That is something that always jumped off the screen, no matter what the state of Ben Simmons, was.
He is Adam Armbrecht from Locked On Nets. Very well spoken, very articulate. We needed this today, Adam. Appreciate you. Welcome to the A-Team. Team Adam here. Adam, thanks so much for doing this here on Clippers Talk.
You better believe it, anytime. And by the way, his assist numbers were incredibly high, almost 7 per game this season before the buyout. So just take that, put it in your pocket, Clippers fans. Lean into it anytime, though.
Appreciate the hope and the perspective here on Ben Simmons and what he can do with the Clippers, Adam. Take care, man.
You got it.
All right, guys. There you have it. I told you we'd have insiders on today. I thought that was beautifully put. And just understanding who Ben Simmons is as a player now and kind of resetting your expectations and knowing what you could be getting into with him as a Clipper. Team AA, people are saying now. I really enjoyed that conversation. And earlier today, also talking about bogey ball. We had two guys on from shout out David Locke in the Locked On Network. I should probably do that today since we just saw him at Into a Dome, was talking with him a little bit, who created the Locked On Network, and guys doing this 5 days a week, and they're completely focused on one team, and it's easy to find good information that way. You got a team, you just go to the Locked On Network and they got it for you 5 days a week. But Brad Rowland came on a little bit earlier talking about, in the live section, you can find it, introducing Bogdan Bogdanovic to us, Bogey Ball. And then we just had Adam Armbrecht with us from Locked On Nets. So both those guys, fantastic guests. I want to thank them once again. And before we get out of here, as I know it has been a lot, and some of you are going to be going to the other podcast if you missed out on the bogey conversation we had earlier. But I do want to remind you, here on Clippers Talk, we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest way to play fantasy sports. You know it, you love it. It's available in over 30 states. All you got to do is pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats or your least favorite player stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. Make picks, win money. I got a free promo code for you guys. This will give new users a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. All you do is use the promo code LAC. You can find it and the referral link in the description down below in this very episode. Then you just go to underdogfantasy.com. You pick higher or lower. It is that simple. Make picks, win money, Underdog Fantasy. Appreciate you guys rolling with me the last couple of hours here on Clippers Talk, as I thought it'd be a good day since we had 3 days off to really dive headfirst in to your two newest Clippers, who I think could make a significant difference in raising this team's ceiling if they are healthy, if they are used in a manner that we're, of course, expecting from Coach Lue. I think he can unlock even more to this Clippers team, especially on the offensive end, of course, with these two players. That's been their deficiency so far this season, even though the numbers are very good with Kawhi Leonard on the floor, but he's only been around for 13 games so far. We will see later tonight on the injury report who could be available tomorrow against Memphis. Remember, it's a back-to-back. Last two games before the All-Star break. Memphis at home tomorrow night at Intuit Dome. And then on Thursday, Clippers will be in Utah, a team they're obviously very familiar with, having just beat them by 20 the other night. I'm Adam Osland. You have been listening to another edition of Clippers Talk. Subscribe, like, super chat. Well, do whatever you want, but hit that alarm notification button so you know whenever we go live here, because it's just is pretty spontaneous when I can do shows. But we're 7 days a week here, as that's the only way I can separate myself from the Locked On Network, I guess. But they did start this thing, and I appreciate their hosts coming on today. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Clippers, Memphis, pregame starting at 6:30 from Intuit Dome. I'm Adam Osland. Be good. We'll talk to you then.